Morning glory and evening grace, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt on this July the 2nd, 2025, and a big, big day it is. As we speak, the House is voting, and the vote is open on a rule that will bring the one big, beautiful bill to the floor. They need a majority to move it to the floor. Got out of committee last night by a 7-6 vote. They can lose 3 Republicans. They lost 2 last night. Tom Massey's not a Republican. They're going to lose him. He's a moron. And so they can only really lose 2 Republicans. Now, the Freedom Caucus is huddling, and the liberal Republicans are huddling, and they don't like the bill. Or I should say, they would have preferred a better bill. They like a lot about the bill. There isn't any Republican I know who is in favor of a massive tax hike on January 1, an economy-crushing tax hike. There isn't any Republican I know who isn't in favor of building the border wall, adding detention beds, increasing the pay and numbers of the Border Patrol, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. There isn't a Republican I know who doesn't want to rebuild the depleted stocks at the Pentagon. Everybody likes most of this bill. Some members, I think a total of 12 out of the 220 Republicans, there are 220 Republicans and I believe 212 Democrats, I think that's it, and some vacancies. Of the 220 Republicans, not one of them likes everything in the bill. It's 940 pages, but it went through regular order. It passed the House, got sent to the Senate as the Constitution requires. The Senate got a hold of it. They did the best they could with the 53 senators they've got, and they barely passed it, 50-50. Vice President Vance had to break the tie. Now it's back to the House, and Speaker Johnson has wisely, in my view, teed it up for a make-or-break vote. Now, if either the Freedom Caucus or the liberal Republicans break the bill on the vain hope that they can do better next time around, they own it. They own the tax hike. They own the improvements to the border that won't happen. They own everyone who comes over the border in the interim that isn't apprehended by an expanded border control. They own whatever happens to our national security, all the delays that happen. They own it all because, classic phrase, they're going to let the perfect become the enemy of the very, very, very good, because this is a very, very, very good bill. It delivers 95% of the Trump agenda. Donald Trump did not run on the reform of entitlements, but it's possible that with a second reconciliation bill, which is indeed possible because they went with one big, beautiful bill, that the people concerned with entitlements can actually take them on. That is the big objection from some members of the Freedom Caucus, is that the Senate didn't cut enough. Some of the cuts that the Senate tried were blocked by the Senate parliamentarian under the procedure known as the bird bath, a rule that governs the reconciliation process. And we don't want to change the rules in the Senate. That's why we don't want to change the rule in the filibuster. So the House often is mad at the Senate, and the Senate is often mad at the House, and that's the way it's supposed to be. And ordinarily, if the 2 chambers broke down and went home angry, I wouldn't mind. But they're not going to get it back together again. This is the best they're going to do because they need 50 Republicans in the Senate and they need 217 Republicans in the House. This is the best that can be done. Now, there are some very sincere deficit hawks. I think of Mr. Roy of Texas. And Mr. Roy of Texas has been saying the same thing forever: this debt is unsustainable. Chairman Powell agreed with him yesterday. We can sustain the debt we have. We can't sustain the path we're on. We have to grow the economy. So the number one consideration for me is national defense. And we are way below where we need to be on funding national defense. But the second most important consideration is a tax code that promotes growth. We can't be a 2% GDP country. We've got to be a 4 and a 5% GDP country. That only happens when you encourage investment, when you allow for immediate 100% depreciation of investment. It only happens when you keep marginal tax rates low It only happens when you take away the tax on tips, the tax on Social Security for low Social Security income earners. It only happens when you do a bunch of things and make them permanent in the tax code. So we don't have to do this again in 10 years. We did this in 2017, and the tax cuts that Donald Trump passed in 2017 expire at the end of 2025. So we're getting an automatic jack-in-the-box, scare you to death tax cut, and it's going to hurt the market. Now, if the members of the Freedom Caucus are in there telling each other, well, they'll have to rewrite it. They'll have to do it. We dare not do this. They don't understand everything that can go wrong. They forget Jim Jeffords. All right, now they've got 53 in the Senate. So it's not a question of one senator jumping, but it is a question of one senator changing their mind on the vote 50-50. One senator changed their mind. They don't get it out of the Senate. And the House, one member of the House changes their mind. They don't get it out of the House. So it's a compromise of a compromise. So nobody loves it, and everybody should like it. And everyone should vote for it. And it shouldn't be drama. All right? We don't need drama. There are some members who are frauds, like Tom Massey of Kentucky. He's a fraud. He's not really there to be a congressman. He's not really there to be a Republican. He's not really there to do anything except do interviews and take a paycheck and go home and pretend. I don't know, talk to high school civics class about it's only a bill and play the cartoon. He can give tours. I don't know what he does, but he's a fraud. There are other serious deficit hawks, and there are other serious moderate Republicans who have deep-seated concerns about cutting too deep or not cutting too much or not cutting enough. And I believe them. I've had Chip Roy on this program. We text, we talk. I agree with him. We have to be serious about entitlement. I want a BRAC commission on entitlement. Wrote up for Fox News tomorrow, where if the president gives to the Freedom Caucus, okay, guys, you get the second reconciliation bill. You write it, you manage it, you do the best you can. I'll support you. Not a guarantee we'll get it through. But there are a bunch of entitlement reforms you could do if you spread them out over decades and decades. You can change, if you're watching on the Freedom News, on the Salem News Channel, that's Chip Roy. He's very smart. He's very able. He's very committed. He's very sincere. He's worried about the debt. I'm worried about the debt. But the immediate problem, the one you've got to solve before you can get to the next one, is the tax code. So we can solve the tax code with a permanent fix, which the one big beautiful bill does. Then we can move on with 4% growth to attack our spending problems. And you get 4% growth, everything becomes easier. Everything. But you got to get 4% growth. So that means I'm asking you to call 202-224-3121 and ask for your congressman. All right? Find out. Tell them where you live. You want to talk to your congressman. Urge them to vote for the one big, beautiful bill tonight. Get it done tonight. And then go home and enjoy the 4th of July, realizing that the most important thing, that the government not steal the money of hardworking Americans disproportionate to what it needs, has been done, and then come back and work on spending. Get creative. Outside of the box, you can find a lot of things to do. You can raise the retirement age, for example, 1 month a year for 60 years. Okay, in 12 years, in 2037, you can retire at 66. Got it? Very slow changes to the entitlement curve work. You can work on those. You can have a commission. You can have the commission come back and organize an up or down vote based upon that. But the key thing right now, today, what Donald Trump has put on Truth Social, on X, what Mike Johnson is saying, what the vice president is saying, what every responsible center-right and conservative is saying, is vote for the one big, beautiful bill. Put away the egos, put away the talking points, even put aside your deep-seated sincere concerns and move the ball forward. This is what Republicans were elected to do. They have a chance of holding the House. If they pass this, they have a chance of unlocking economic growth. But if they blow it and explode it, all the king's horses and all the king's men won't put the one big beautiful bill back together again. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Stay tuned.